Have you ever pondered why some people seem to always ascend to the top, regardless of circumstance? While the moral and ethical conflict, why do the ruthless usually triumph? The reality regarding power is not as unambiguous as what we have been taught. In the worlds of business, politics, and history, success is not necessarily about acting morally or by the law. Sometimes it's about learning to be decisive, in charge, and knowing when to violate the guidelines. Imagine a society whereby morality does not ensure prosperity, one in which the most strategic, aspirational, and merciless rise above the others. Sounds disturbing, doesn't it? But suppose, therefore, this is our reality. Imagine learning to negotiate this reality and make the difficult decisions others would not. This video will look at why, rather than always people who deserve it, power often benefits those who know its mechanisms. You will discover why the most strategic leaders, CEOs, and monarchs of history were not the most moral. Stay around, since at the end, you will see the universe of power from a quite different angle. Success isn't always about playing fair. It's about understanding the system, knowing when to act, and sometimes being ruthless enough to seize what's rightfully yours. This is a hard truth that history has shown us time and again. Those who climb to the top are rarely the ones who follow all the rules. In fact, some of the most successful individuals in history did so by breaking the rules, manipulating systems, and making choices that others would never dare to make. But why is that? Why does the world seem to reward the ruthless, the strategic, and the ambitious, while the moral and ethical often struggle to gain traction? The answer lies in the way power works in our world. When we think of power, we often think of political figures or business tycoons who rise to the top by sheer force of will. But power isn't just about physical strength or political influence. It's about control. It's about making decisions that shape the world around you, even if those decisions are difficult or unpopular. The most successful individuals in history understood this. They knew that success wasn't a reward for kindness or fairness. It was a result of the ability to take control, to manipulate the system, and to do what needed to be done, no matter the cost. In business, this is especially true. CEOs who prioritize fairness over results or ethics over expansion are often left behind by competitors who understand that business is a war, not a charity. But it's not just about business. In politics too, power is about influence. A leader who tells people what they want to hear, manipulates the system to maintain authority, and silences opposition will always rise higher than one who clings to integrity at the cost of power. Morality is seen as a weakness when the goal is domination. The most powerful rulers weren't the most ethical, but the most strategic. Look at some of history's greatest figures: Julius Caesar, Napoleon, and Alexander the Great. They weren't the most moral individuals, but they were ruthless in their pursuit of power. They understood that in order to rise to the top, they had to be willing to make tough decisions, betray allies, and break promises when it suited their goals. They didn't care about being liked, they cared about winning. And that's the key to understanding power. Success doesn't always favor the most deserving. It favors those who know how to take what they want, when they want it. It's about recognizing that the world is not built to serve the virtuous, but to reward those who understand its mechanics and exploit them without hesitation. This might sound harsh, but it's the reality we face. The economy doesn't reward kindness, it rewards dominance. And history has shown us time and time again that the most ruthless individuals are the ones who rise to power. But it's not just about being ruthless for the sake of it. It's about strategy. It's about knowing when to be kind and when to be feared. A great leader isn't just someone who commands power. They're someone who knows how to use it effectively. They understand that sometimes kindness is a weakness. Sometimes you have to be cold, calculating, and strategic to succeed. This is where most people fail. They believe that success is about hard work, talent, and doing the right thing. But in reality, it's about understanding the rules of power and knowing when to bend them to your advantage. The people who rise to the top are those who have mastered the psychology of power. They know when to make the hard choices, when to take risks, and when to act decisively. This isn't just a lesson for politicians and CEOs, it applies to anyone who wants to rise above the ordinary. If you want to succeed, you have to develop the right mindset. You have to be willing to take control, to make the tough decisions that others won't, and to do what it takes to achieve your goals. Now, you might be thinking, but isn't there a better way? Shouldn't we focus on fairness and ethics? The answer is, fairness is a tool. It's a narrative created to keep people in line. The real world isn't about fairness. It's about who can navigate the system, break the rules when needed, and seize power. Here's the unsettling truth. The world is built to favor the strong, the strategic, and the ambitious. If you want to rise to the top, you have to understand this. You have to let go of the comforting lie that success is about being good and instead focus on being effective. This isn't to say that you should abandon morality altogether, but you have to understand when it's working against you. The people who succeed are the ones who know when to break the rules, when to be ruthless, and when to take control. They're the ones who aren't afraid to make the tough choices, even when others hesitate. Now that we've seen how power works and why success doesn't always favor the most ethical, let's dig deeper into the mindset of those who rise to the top. How do they think? What sets them apart from the rest of us? Stay tuned, because next we'll explore the psychological traits that separate winners from losers. After we have proved how frequently power favors the merciless, let's explore more the psychological features that differentiate the most successful people from the others. These are qualities transcending mere ambition or strategic orientation. These are the qualities that enable the strong to transcend the ordinary, seize control of events, and make decisions others just would not be able to make. First and most important quality of successful people is ambition. It's about having a relentless need to reach the top, not only about desiring more. No matter how difficult things get, ambition drives people to overcome challenges, to face failures, and to keep on going forward. Common folks accept their situation and live with their constraints, so embracing mediocrity. But the ambitious never really do. Every difficulty is seen by them as an opportunity. They see failure as the gasoline propelling them ahead rather than as the end. Ambition goes beyond simply having grand ideas. It's about having the will to reach them, whatever it takes. The aspirational never wait for the ideal chance to present itself. They produce chances. Their own fortune is created, and they will do whatever it takes to get at their objectives, even if it means running dangers that others might avoid. Another quality separating victors from the others is decisiveness. The great leaders don't hesitate. Even amid doubt, they move fast and boldly. Decisions they make are urgent, based on gut, and they proceed without second guessing. Opportunity is killed by indecision. Those who hesitate miss the best opportunities available in life. They become caught in the loop of overanalyzing every conceivable result, then doing nothing at all. Still, the determined leaders know that success usually depends on action. Their choices are not always flawless, but they realize they can change and steer as necessary. Indecision also results from anxiety, that of failure, that of choosing the incorrect path, that of being judged. The strong, though, refuse to let fear control their behavior. Instead, they welcome it. They understand that a signal indicating they are on the correct road is fear. Should something frighten them, it is most likely worth investigating. Their fear of failing does not stop them. Rather, it motivates them to engage in even more bold activities. Regarding fearlessness then, the successful realize that fear is something to face squarely rather than something to run from. The process consists in part fear of failure, fear of rejection, and fear of the unknown. Those that climb to the top, however, refuse to allow those anxieties rule them. Knowing that achievement is on the other side of fear, they press through them. Many fall short here as well. They proceed cautiously. They follow the least demanding road. The strong realize, though, that safety produces mediocrity rather than success. Success is about pushing past your comfort zone, daring to do what others are reluctant to do, and running risks. Power is mostly composed of strategic thought. It is insufficient to be driven or aspirational. You also must be strategic thinker. Winners are aware of when to follow the guidelines and when to violate them. They forge their own route instead, than following the throng. In business specifically, this is crucial. A good CEO creates rather than merely replicas of the market trends. They question the status quo, not follow the accepted methods of doing things. True power, they realize, comes from being able to see the whole picture and taking measured chances others might overlook. The strong also know how to create coalitions. Rarely is success an individual endeavor. To reach the top, even the most merciless leaders depend on others. The secret is, nevertheless, learning how to create partnerships that would help you personally rather than only others. Here is once more where strategy is crucial. A great leader knows when to seem strong and when to seem vulnerable. They understand when to be afraid and when to be nice. They create partnerships that forward their objectives and throw away those no longer beneficial to them. Strategic thinking, thus, also requires understanding when to act and when to wait. The most potent people understand that timing is crucial. They do not snap judgments without properly considering the circumstances. They wait for the proper moment, slow down, then attack when the timing is right. The winners from the losers differ in this way. The winners are adept in controlling game speed. They understand when to keep on and when to stop. Still, another vital quality is adaptation. Since the world is always changing, successful people are those who can adjust to those developments. The strong understand they cannot afford to be inflexible in their behavior or perspective. They have to be adaptable and ready to change their plans depending on the state of affairs. This is the reason some of the most creative and successful leaders are also among them. They are aware that the world changes. Something that worked yesterday might not function today. They welcome fresh concepts, fresh tools, and fresh approaches of thinking. They are constantly seeking for means to keep ahead of the curve, grow, and keep their top position. Another absolutely vital quality of the strong is self-awareness. Top achievers not only have ambition and strategic sense, but also know themselves. They are aware of their assets and shortcomings. They employ their own self-awareness to their benefit since they are conscious of their feelings. Leaders who possess self-awareness can make better decisions, remain cool under duress, and develop closer bonds with others. It enables them to keep their eye on the wider picture and aid them to see when they are becoming overly absorbed in their feelings or their own ego. Those who are in charge of themselves, not only their situation, are the most potent leaders. After we have discussed the qualities that define a successful person, let us now discuss how these qualities apply in actual life. How might the most strong people use their skills and attitude to seize control of their surroundings? Stay tuned as we investigate some important cases illustrating how ambition, strategy, and fearlessness produce success. As we've seen, success doesn't always go to the kindest or most deserving individuals. It often favors those who are willing to take bold actions, make tough decisions, and manipulate the system when necessary. But how do these psychological traits play out in real-life scenarios? How do the most powerful people in the world use their mindset to shape the world around them? Let's explore some examples of how the powerful use their strategy, ambition, and fearlessness to gain control. One of the best examples of this is Julius Caesar, a figure whose rise to power and eventual assassination highlights the ruthlessness needed to succeed in a competitive world. Caesar was a brilliant general, but what made him stand out was his ability to manipulate both politics and people. He didn't just wait for the right opportunities to come to him, he created them. He made alliances when necessary, but he was also willing to break them if it furthered his goals. His rise was not based on being liked or loved, but on being strategically savvy. Caesar's decision to march on Rome, effectively starting a civil war, is a perfect example of the bold, decisive actions that define powerful leaders. He didn't hesitate. Even when he was faced with potential defeat, he moved forward, believing that the risk was worth it. He acted on ambition, knowing that the stakes were high, and that only by taking decisive action could he secure his place at the top. In many ways, Napoleon Bonaparte embodies the same qualities. Napoleon was one of the most ambitious and strategic leaders in history. And his rise to power was no accident. Napoleon didn't just rely on his military brilliance, he also understood the importance of timing, alliances, and psychological warfare. He knew when to play by the rules and when to break them. One of Napoleon's key strategies was his ability to inspire loyalty in others. He built strong alliances, but he also knew when to be feared. His leadership wasn't just about military might, it was about maintaining control over people's perceptions. He understood that the most effective leaders are those who are both admired and feared. Napoleon was known for his ability to command respect and loyalty, even when faced with opposition. His downfall came not from his lack of ambition, but from his overreach. His invasion of Russia was a fatal mistake, one driven by arrogance. But even in his downfall, Napoleon's story reveals a crucial point. Power must be balanced. Ruthlessness and ambition alone aren't enough. If you let your desire for power consume you, it will eventually destroy you. This is something many of history's greatest rulers learned the hard way. Power can be seductive, but if you don't maintain control, it can lead to your downfall. One of the key lessons we can take from these examples is the importance of self-awareness. The most powerful leaders are those who understand not just the systems they are manipulating, but also themselves. They are aware of their strengths and weaknesses and adjust their strategies accordingly. This is what separates the successful from the ones who fade into obscurity. Self-awareness isn't just about knowing what you're good at. It's about knowing when to step back, when to make bold moves, and when to be cautious. Caesar knew when to push forward and when to retreat. Napoleon knew when to make strategic alliances and when to break them. Both were able to rise to the top because they understood the importance of flexibility and adaptability. In business, strategic ruthlessness is just as important. Many of today's most successful CEOs and business leaders are not the most ethical individuals. They are the most strategic. Take, for example, the rise of companies like Apple and Microsoft. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates weren't afraid to break the rules to get ahead. Jobs was known for his ability to see the potential in technology and turn it into something revolutionary. He didn't just innovate, he disrupted the entire tech industry. Gates, on the other hand, built an empire through sheer force of will. He used his strategic mindset to make bold decisions that others wouldn't have dared to make. The difference between these leaders and those who fail is decisiveness. Jobs and Gates didn't hesitate when it came to making big decisions. They didn't sit around waiting for the perfect moment. They made their own. Jobs was known for pushing his team to the limit, demanding perfection and not accepting anything less. Gates was ruthless in his pursuit of market share, using his software to corner the market and force competitors out. They both understood the reality of success. It's not always about fairness or kindness. It's about control, strategy, and the willingness to take risks that others won't. In contrast, many companies that fail do so because they lack the ability to adapt. Companies like Kodak and Blockbuster were once giants in their respective industries. Kodak invented the digital camera, but it was afraid to embrace the future. It feared that adopting new technology would harm its traditional film business. The company's refusal to adapt led to its downfall. Similarly, Blockbuster dismissed Netflix as a small, insignificant player in the video rental market, only to be overtaken by it when Netflix changed the way people consume media. These failures happened because the leaders of these companies were unable to see the bigger picture. They failed to recognize that the rules were changing and that they needed to evolve with them. This is why adaptability is so important. It's not enough to have ambition or decisiveness. You also need to be able to change when the situation calls for it. Adaptability is about knowing that the world around you is constantly evolving. The most successful individuals understand this and are always looking for ways to adjust their strategies to stay ahead of the curve. They embrace new ideas, new technologies, and new ways of thinking. They're never satisfied with the status quo. They're always looking for the next opportunity, the next big thing. If you're interested in learning more about the hidden aspects of power and how silence can be a powerful tool, I recommend checking out our video, Nietzsche's Secret to Real Power: Why Silence Matters. In this video, we explore how silence can be used as a weapon in the pursuit of power. You'll understand why some of the most powerful individuals in history chose silence over speech and how it allowed them to gain control and influence. Watch this video to learn how silence can give you an edge in your own pursuit of power. We've covered a lot about power, strategy, and ambition, but what happens when things go wrong? What happens when your hunger for power leads to your downfall? Stay tuned, because in the next section, we'll explore the consequences of unchecked ambition and how even the most powerful figures in history were brought down by their own arrogance. Should this video be of interest to you, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for other power and strategy related materials. View also our Nietzsche's Secret to Real Power, Why Silence Matters video. It will help you to see how silently can be a very effective weapon in the search of dominance. Tell someone who needs to know the reality about power dynamics. Then, let us know what you think in the comments below. I appreciate you viewing. Stay tuned for more excellent material.